Hello, podcasters. My name is Eric Brax. Between my information and your ability to communicate, we are literally going to change the world big time. It's going to make all human problems disappear. It's just unbelievable. I'm going to get right onto it. My own story is that I had the same kind of social ineptness that a lot of people have when they're young. It took me a long time, in fact, halfway through my life, before I began to realize that I have to change things. When I began that research, thanks to the information age, I was able to put together the world's best information on well-being. And I've come up with a way of delivering well-being to the whole world in its most simple format. It's going to be called A Way to Be because it's everybody's option. It's the fastest path to 100% mental well-being. I like to call it the word enlightenment, because when you make that transition really quickly, you get this sense of overwhelm, of liberation, and relief. Relief that you're no longer struggling, and that everything, while it's all somewhat the same, nothing will ever be the same again. Now on the side, we're going to be having images, because everything I have has been summarized into simple diagrams which anybody can understand. Nobody's going to have to learn anything to use this method. It is actually all within ourselves. It's in our hearts. And that's how I know it's right. That's how you'll know it's right. It's how we'll all see that this is going to be the transparent and obvious way for all of humanity to move, so that we end up in a world that we literally have dreamed about since we were young. So what I'm going to present to you today is going to be, first of all, the meaning of life. And I'm sorry, I can't call it anything else. You'll understand it as being the meaning of life as well when you hear me tell you about it. Once we have that, it leads to us opening the door to the path of 100% mental well-being in the shortest possible way. The system is absolutely transparent. It has within it, in a simple way, in the simplest way, every other system that has ever been invented. In this way, I know that all the experts of the world will look at what I've done, and they will weigh in and go, this is right. This is the simplest method. This is what's going to happen. It's not to say that it's absolutely perfect, but with a little massaging, it will become the perfect way to be for all of humanity into the future, insofar as it will accommodate all the different variations of humans that there are. But at the foundational heart level, because it works and because we all share that same heart, it's going to be something else, the world that we all dreamed should be existing currently. The other thing the meaning of life is going to deliver to us, and I'm going to explain it very well in this video, is the end of bullying, the end of loneliness, the unity between science and religion, and the end of war itself. That part, that last one, will take 20 years, but in 20 years' time, nobody will ever think about war as a way of achieving any goals. This is all naturally going to happen because of this meaning of life. Now, the way it works is that the meaning of life is actually our origin story and our identity. When we own that, when we recognize it, and we all will, absolutely every person on earth is going to recognize this as being the right thing. This is who we are. When that happens, there will be no option but to implement this into all our societies, and especially into our education system. But it also allows us all to work on ourselves and bring ourselves to a really, really good level of being and communication in a super quick time. One of humanity's big problems today is we have to solve global warming. It's in a runaway state, and that has to be brought under control. This information is going to do that in the super fastest possible time. I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but fusion and global warming will be solved in the quickest possible time by implementing the ideas in this video. And you, with your decision to become a podcaster, are going to be part of bringing this to the whole world. It's going to be a massive, massive party. Now, I myself am surprised that I've got this information. There's no reason that I should expect to have this information, but there it is. It all occurred to me as I solved my own issues, and I realized it was much bigger than what it was going to be able to do for me. That's why we have this diagram, this quick jigsaw puzzle, to say that these pieces all fit together so tightly, we know that this is the right way to go. We're going to start with the sphere of knowledge, our current understanding of truth. And when we look at the whole thing and we put all of our knowledge in this sphere of truth, we can put at the top all the things we really, really know. These will be the logical things, the scientific things, material science. These are known. But in the bottom half of the sphere, all the things that we're not entirely sure about because they have to do with the human consciousness. So there we could start with education and psychology, and we end up there with religion and spiritual paths, confidence, self-esteem, these kinds of questions. Nobody really knows the answer to those because if we ask 100 different wise people, they're all going to give us 100 different answers. This is not going to be the case when you have this information, because this information, my information, is the foundation of all of their research. The next diagram is the same, except that now the sphere of knowledge has a blue line going through that confusion area. That confusion area and all of its bad features are going to disappear. When we reconfigure knowledge, by having done that operation, love equals energy, which is the meaning of life, is going to be in the middle of this reconfiguration of knowledge. Around that will be a way to be, which is that path of fastest human enlightenment, and then around that will be all of human history, and from that emanates all human knowledge. So when we think about the meaning of life, we do think it should be love, right? We've heard the songs, we've read the poems, we've read the books, we've seen the movies. And it's true, if we ask every guru in the world, they will all look at this and they'll prescribe a way to be and say, yes, something that aligns with this thing we called love. All psychotherapists, psychologists will also have us walk the path that aligns with love, Stoicism as well. All priests will as well, because the actual line of love, the true line of love, was actually what Jesus was talking about. Now, we know that Jesus also comes with a lot of mystical stories, but those belong in those times when mystical stories were the norm. Nowadays, what the church will do in the next year or two is they're going to focus more on the words of Jesus rather than the stories about Jesus. When they do this, they open the door for everybody to have the same access to the love that Jesus was talking about. Now, we have that access anyway, but when we have community representations of this love, we're no longer going to be against it. This is part of the unification of religion and science. Now, all artists also agree that love should be the meaning of life because that's what we've seen, as I mentioned, the poems, the songs, the movies. But I've also in this diagram got a magnifying glass, and you'll see that love and truth are exactly the same thing. And that's why all this is so important. None of it is mystical or woo. It's all absolutely nailed down now in this work. When we ask all our friends, they're going to agree about love. And when we ask the whole rest of the world, we all know this. This is the point. When you know this information, you will know that everybody in the world, when they understand it, are going to go, yes, this is the answer. This is what we want. When we look at ourselves as we were 10,000 years ago, if we were living in a community that was functioning well, we can see who we were and are still as humans. And I've got that list on the diagram on the side here. You can see its attributes like curiosity and motivation and enthusiasm. But in the modern world that we're living in, it's an intellectually based world. It's been going on for 100 years now, and it's really seriously starting to fail. It has been now for a long time, but we haven't had the impetus to make a change, and that's because we didn't have something really powerful to make that happen. And that's what the meaning of life is going to do. There's no question. So that diagram I label original farmer's mind. It's a really handy way to think about who we are, really. Now, if we look at the scientific view of the world, I start with an apple tree, except that we don't know it's an apple tree because a few months later, if it grows apples, that's when we know what it is. It's an apple tree because it's a process that makes apples. It's the same thing with our whole universe. The very first quantum bit became something, and it became this period of time right now. The consciousness is the miracle of this universe. You can say you've got to go a long way to find something as amazing as a human consciousness, but that's not even true. You can't go anywhere to find anything as amazing as a human consciousness. So this tells us that our universe is a love universe because our consciousness is represented by love. This is who we are, as we found out in our original farmer's mind diagram. This is who we are, but we're not our intellects. But we do have to join our intellects to our hearts to make our intellects really the magical thing that it is. So when we come to the meaning of life, we're up to that right now. I start this way. It's unfair to say that our brain, and if we include our early nervous system, our spinal cord, it's unfair to say that those two things are consciousness, because if we took them out and put them on a table, they would die. We have to include our heart, our lungs, our stomachs, our whole body. So when we start with a scientific definition of love, we're going to say love equals everything that's good for a human being. So that means the air, the water, the food we eat, all right, the shelter we have to live in, the temperate climate. When somebody brings us food, it's an act of love. So love, to begin with, is everything that's good for a human being. When we look at a rabbit needs to burrow into soft soil. So that's part of what's love for a rabbit. It's rabbit love because that species needs that to go on into the next frame of the universe. Likewise with every plant on the whole world, in the whole world, they all need nutrients in the soil. When they have that, they are in plant love and can thrive and go on into the next frame of the universe. So love in the end means just what is required for anything to go forward into the next frame of time in the universe. And it makes sense because it is, after all, as we said before, a love universe. But we can go down a level. We can take a cell out of my arm and put it on a table and it would die. So the cells also have to be surrounded by the correct other cells or air or blood. They need to be in the right conditions again in order to go on into the next period of time. So this is cellular love. I won't bore you. Molecular love and quantum mechanical love are the same thing, i.e. nothing in this current frame of time in the universe exists without it having been in its perfect conditions or adequate conditions for it to survive. When we think of this, we can say it in a formula, and we can say love equals energy. That is, a heart equals E. This is a beautiful wee formula that says that we are love in a universe of love, and that the similes or synonyms of love would be things like God, but truth is the main one. Truth is like the biggest word there is, but love is how we feel it. When you consider beauty, when you consider everything that bliss brings us towards, that is the truth of the universe that it wants us to proceed toward, right? Love equals energy is the meaning of life. It's our origin story. It says that on the one side there's consciousness, on the other side there's all named reality, and that we are one, equal with that very same first quantum bit. Now that we have the meaning of life and that we know it's love, we can go forward to contemplate 100% human well-being. The next 4 images are going to be about a way to be. It's an option for every person to achieve 100% mental well-being as quickly as possible. It only takes a week or so. These diagrams they look simple, but they are foundationally exactly what is going wrong with today's societies. That is, we are living in a world of fear rather than a world of love. We call it depression. I call it disheartenment. You'll see on the diagrams that in an enlightened position, people are living in a world of love, and they have all those attributes of the heart that we saw in the earlier diagram regarding original farmer's mind. We have enthusiasm, we have energy, we have purpose, we have motivation, we have creativity, all the wonderful things that it is to be human. However, on the depressed side of things, the disheartened side of things, that's when everything is closed down somewhat. We're cynical, we're skeptical, we hide ourselves away. These are due to the fear program. The doors around such a person are typically closed. They close them themselves as well because they are living in their comfort zone and consider everything outside of the comfort zone to be dangerous in some way. But that's all imagined danger. It's not really true. There's no place to go from this disheartened position except to move towards the position of love. A way to be is going to do that for people really quickly, and that's when they're going to have that feeling of liberation and relief, that they are no longer trapped within this struggle of life. When we're living in that place, we have all those wonderful natural attributes, and the doors around us are all open. People welcome us through it. You can plot your life and plan your life to become exactly the way you want it to be. The lower diagram indicates that none of us have any choice but to simply deal with our lives when we're young. We are in it. We can only respond to what's in front of us. And because life is like a sine wave, there's good things and there's bad things. When the bad things happen, if we're sensitive, we tend to shrink away and think, well, I don't want to get hurt like that again. Consequently, we start to close the doors around us. We start to live in this sense of comfort, and we don't like to venture out from that at all. But the diagram also shows that if we're lucky, and this doesn't always happen, but if we're lucky, we can get to a point of knowing thyself. When we know thyself, when we have this revelation, we realize that we actually are living in a world of love. And when we live that way, we find out that everything works for us. People want to help us. We want to help other people. Everything starts to work in a way which hasn't been experienced before. So this know thyself moment is what we're heading for, and it's only going to take a week possibly for you to have that. Now, not everybody's going to have that because it depends on how much you go, but you'll know that you're there. When you're there, you'll know you're there because on the one hand, nothing is the same, but on the other hand, everything is different now. And there are no limits to what you can achieve and how happy you can be. So consequently, once we've had this know thyself moment, the rest of our timeline is just a success after success after success. Bliss. The next image is one that has two diagrams on it, and I know that this is the perfect system because nobody gets left behind. The top diagram is the Jesus diagram, and the lower diagram is the Buddhist diagram. In order to stop our reactivity, which is the biggest problem that we all face, we need to eliminate the fear program. In the Jesus diagram, it says that we are all love. Everything is love. But once we're born, we have fight, flight, freeze, and fawn to choose from in terms of having a response to anything that seems threatening. But the way that language is, and the magic of language, we only need to add the word formulate to that and tell all humans that that's the only one we use. When we do that, we find that we don't ruin our own lives. We use formulate, that is to say, we think twice. And if we don't manage to think twice, we can say, oh, I'm sorry, I reacted, that was my fault. It's very recoverable. You see this on programs like Married at First Sight. People who first meet, they all look absolutely beautiful because they're so full of life and love and beauty. They look as good as they're ever going to look. And it works, it's beautiful. And then within a day or two, they start to talk, and then their past starts to come out in their language, and they begin reacting, and then the other person reacts, and suddenly the whole thing is ruined. When we react, we always lose our best options. In a way, if we're thinking about ourselves as apes, when we react, it's as if we're picking up some poo and throwing it at that person. But you don't want to do that because what it's really like is if you're picking up poo and rubbing it on your own face. That's the result of having a reaction. It's only ruining your life. So that's what we need to communicate to the kids, and we can do that by saying just use formulate or apologize and then move on in a way which is wonderful. When we add the word formulate and use it, then we have the full beam of love coming through as it shows in that diagram. Now, on the Buddhist diagram, the first bulb shows our ego, and it's a perfect bulb with love shining all the way through, but that's impossible. We have to deal with some hurt in our lives, as we talked about earlier. By the time we're 20, many people, too many people, have become very sensitive and they react all over the place. When we use love to clear ourselves, to heal our spirits, we accept and own this point of having zero victimology. That is the goal. And the love, when we do that, our love gets to then shine through the bulb, as it did in the theoretical model earlier. It's full beam love, like in the other top diagram as well. And that's the objective, to stand with a proud sense of zero victimology. Okay, that's the goal of step one. Now, I should also say, because we're going to do that next with the KFAG model, kindness, forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude being 4 components of love. If we do the KFAG model properly, we really take it inside of ourselves, and that's what the process is going to describe. Some people will want to go over it in a cursory way, and that's not recommended, but if you're just not going to do it, at the very least, you do need to be able to say to yourself, I carry zero victimology and I will not be putting up with myself reacting. And if I do react, I'll simply apologize and get back to the people if I need to. Ultimately, we're now going to go on to the next page, which is the KFAG model installation. So this is a fun and amazing thing to do for people who are capable of doing it, which should be everybody. It involves, I prescribe this as being a weekend event, where on a Saturday morning you might decide, okay, I'm going to lay the kindness block. And we imagine this as a block of gold. We go for our walk or our meditation or our prayer, and after half an hour of thinking deeply about kindness in all ways in our lives, we actually end up feeling a lot of love. And when we're recognizing kindness as a deep superpower, we lift it up and we pop it inside our heads and say that's permanently there. Now, when we do this, it's not to say that in the past we've been unkind on purpose or anything like that, but it's just an alignment, an allegiance to love, to kindness specifically. And we put it there and we don't question it ever again. We hold it with pride. Likewise, when we do the forgiveness block, we're going to do that perhaps on a Saturday afternoon. Again, spend at least a half an hour, and at some point we're going to say, okay, I can see everybody was doing their best, including me. Everybody made mistakes, including me. I'm just going to say, I'm over it. I'm going to take forgiveness, and I'm going to forgive myself and others. Each of these blocks go both ways, so it's kindness to yourself and patience with yourself, as well as kindness and patience with others. Forgiveness, both ways. On Sunday morning, you might want to do the acceptance block. Again, it's going to be both ways. You're going to accept yourself as you are in your environment, as well as accepting other people and where they are on the path. You're going to be patient with them too. So Sunday morning and then Sunday afternoon, you can lay the gratitude block. When the process is all done, that's when you're standing proud and you can say, I carry with me zero victimology. This is just how it's going to be from this point on. So step one is the standard sensible thing for any therapist to recommend. Ultimately, usually people have had to use a therapist in the past, but now that we're getting an understanding of love that's more reliable and simple, we can all do this for ourselves. And we end up carrying the KFAG model with us so that next week, if you're driving down the road and some thought arrives from the past, perhaps you thought you'd processed it already, but it arrives and it just becomes an annoying thing rather. It's like, okay, it comes through at half intensity, but okay, we'll put that back in its file and gently close the door on it. Ultimately, we do everything in a very relaxed fashion. That's a big word in Buddhism, and it's 100% right. Ultimately, there is nothing to fear, and so we want to live in a way which is calm and wonderful. So step two of a way to be is communication recovery. And it recognizes that we're not just dogged by our pasts and reactive from our pasts, but we also have changed the way we speak, the way we stand, the way we dress, the way we think because of those experiences of fear in the past. So in communication recovery, I have 7 videos on my website, which I recommend everybody watch twice. That way everybody gets bored and says, I know this stuff. And that's great because once you know the stuff, this is what the middle of the bell curve is in terms of communication. Communication within yourself and communication to others. By knowing this stuff, this is the game of life, the fun part. Your autopilot isn't going to be doing that sort of thing, but your higher awareness is going to start tilting your autopilot or trying to do it quickly. As much as it can, it's going to start to try and dance in the way that everybody else likes to dance, the way that works. So we learn to stand up straight and speak properly. We can video ourselves. Me doing this process of videoing myself has been a really excellent one for seeing how I am. And in my first videos, I realized, hey, that's not how I think I am. That's sort of a guy who's still holding some fear. And so it's been a wonderful exercise for me to make these videos, and I recommend that you do something like it as well, a video diary perhaps. So in communication recovery, we've worked out what the bell curve is in terms of what works with people. And that's what we're going to use from this point on. We're also going to check out our own voices. The best way to do that is to keep a journal. If we just think things, it's really easy for everything to evaporate and we don't think of it again. But when we keep a journal or a diary, we can keep our intentions there on each line and we can check with it every morning and see where we're at. And I recommend this is the right way to do things if you want to amplify all of your joy and bliss. You want to get on the case, and this becomes your biggest project in your life, is your mastery of yourself. This is why that know thyself moment is so special for people. It becomes like the biggest thing there is. It's a realization that, oh, this is the most exciting thing about living entirely, just to become my best self. So step 2 gets done in less than a week. I mean, you can watch these things and know them and then start your journal. And then step 3 is simply maintenance. It's living joyfully. So you're just going to check in on your journal each day. You're going to wake up and do some yoga. You're going to get your mindset in the right place. You might do that twice a day, possibly after lunch as well. But generally, whenever you become aware, you're going to be checking out how you're going and you're going to be thrilled with your new behaviors and your new way of being. And everything from here on in is just a success after success. That's how a way to be works. It's such a no-brainer that every therapist and every guru, every priest, every wise person in the world would be able to look at these components and say, yep, you can't make it better than this. This is just how it is. It is enlightenment. Here we have the effects of a way to be on the world. Podcasters, blessed people, blessed communicators that you are. With these ideas and your platform, we're going to get this thing happening. You see, we all woke up generally this morning thinking that the world is a scary place, right? We've got wars going on. We remember what happened 100 years ago, and we don't want anything like that happening again. But it turns out, when you understand these stories that are on this page, we are living in the most amazing moment there ever has been and possibly ever will be. This is the transition where we as a species become separate from our animal origins. Not entirely separate, but we master our human consciousness. Our mind and heart connection becomes perfect and everything just becomes amazing from this point on. It's going to be like a 10-year party, but I'll get to that in a second. The two stories that are going on in our civilization, firstly is the story of bullying. You can imagine in the earliest times, the crazy leader of some group and it usually was a crazy person, was scared that if they went to sleep, the next crazy person would come along and kill them. So they go and invade other tribes that are nearby. This is just all living in fear. It's all just bullying. It's the story of bullying. It's living in fear. However, concurrent to that story, at the same time, there's been this thread of people working out philosophy and science, working out the truth. What is the truth, and how come wars are still happening? All through the ages, these have been questions. Right now, love equals energy is the culmination of that philosophical strand, because love equals energy finally is our true origin story and our true identity, something we all recognize. There's not a single person in the world who can understand this idea who won't say that, who would say that it's wrong some way. It's just not wrong. Now, because we're all connected with our phones, this is the perfect time. Isn't it as if this is what's supposed to happen right now? We are all supposed to have this discussion, make it really obvious that this is the right way to go, and then start implementing it into our schools and into our society. You see, this moment of know thyself for the human species, which we're on right now, is the end of a process of our shucking off our animal origins. And this process seems to us like it's taken a long time, but from this point on into the eternal future is going to be success after success. And this area of struggle that we've just been talking about will be seen as a simple blip. All right? It's just true. It just is what it is. This is the big revelation. Now, all people, I said, will be on board with this. And not just people, the biggest companies of the world. Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, McDonald's, everybody will be for this. We're going to lead now to the next sheet, which is about the reconfiguration of knowledge. So either all of the big companies or one of them, like Google Earth, they will decide, hey, there's a lot of money in this, and it's going to be good for all of humanity. We want this. And the other companies will be going, no, we want this, right? It's going to be a struggle to get this because it's going to be valuable, but also wonderful. Okay, that's the important thing. When the reconfiguration of knowledge is done with love equals energy in the middle, surrounded by a way to be, surrounded by human history, emanating all human knowledge, this will be online and free for every single human being. The reason for that is that we are well when we know things. And with the simplification of this knowledge, we are going to all just be aware of this sphere of human consciousness. It will be like a digital form of consciousness that we can consult to see where the middle of the bell curve is on a number of things. So, for instance, the flat earth people might find themselves somewhere out here and there's nobody else there. So we'll all be able to consult this reconfiguration of knowledge. It's going to be the first time it's ever happened. So this is going to be profound. It's going to be an eternal thing as well that will eternally grow. It's for this reason, and because the students are going to come out of school using Formulate and understanding who they are, that they are going to be motivated and enthusiastic and competitive at trying to solve all the problems that are needing to be solved, and those are fusion and global warming. It means that the amount of effort going into fusion and global warming will be by a factor of, I reckon, about 10,000, not just 100 times, not just 1,000 times. The whole world is going to be looking at this like a big sports game, like a big grand final. And although we don't know when the final whistle is going to blow, we're going to win, and we're all chomping at the bit to help each other and to cheer each other on and make these changes happen in a way which is good for all humanity, all life, everything. All right? That's the first big revelation of what love equals energy is going to do for us. So the next image shows that religion and natural wisdom is on one side of our society, and natural logic and science sits on the other side of society. We generally don't find those people talking, dialoguing much between each other because that's just leading to an argument. When we put love equals energy in the middle, though, both sides will enthusiastically grab onto it and thus unify the whole sphere. Religion will do it because it is love. It is what it's everything that they've been doing for 2,000 years. Scientists will do it because we have children, we want wellness all through the world, and we recognize love is the answer. When this happens, the church is going to stop talking about the mystical stories about Jesus and more about the words of Jesus. They'll be focusing on those. But in actual fact, we won't need to be told about the words of Jesus over and over because we actually have them. We know them. We recognize them now. And so the church and all spiritual places in every town around the world, the way I imagine it will be simple. On Sunday, it'll be open all day, and every one of those places will be open all day, serving free tea and cakes. Those will be supplied by local businesses. The people who are getting well at home and want to come out and start living in this world of love will go to any of those places. There'll be the tea and cakes, but there'll also be performances. There'll be dancing. There'll be bands. There'll be all sorts of celebration. This will be the bliss that we're all seeking and wanting to reinstate as a permanent aspect of being human. It's going to lead to a wonderful party. We're going to have single people meeting other single people, couples meeting other couples. We'll all be inhabiting the identities of priest, scientist, and artist, insofar as we'll all be expressive and full of joy. Okay, podcasters, this brings us to the end. You now have the whole story. You now know how we can suddenly change this world, which seems like a dangerous place, into the most wonderful, loving, beautiful place for all eternity. And this is something you can do. These ideas, they're going to be out there, they're going to be accepted, and we're going to see this transition happen, particularly over the next 10 years. It's going to be a little slow and yet extremely fast because it's going to change everything. You see, when we learn our identity and lock that in, it affects every single thing that humanity does. It's going to be exciting. Okay, here are the good reasons why we should get these ideas out there. First of all, these images will result in the end of all unnatural human suffering. That is, it's not going to solve cancer, but every other way of human suffering is going to be removed almost immediately. We can trust this path because it's free, first of all. Well, that's just a benefit. It's absolutely free. We just need to put the ideas out there. Everyone will cling onto it because it's true. Did I mention? I don't think I've mentioned enough in this thing. All of this is true. The word God is like the word truth, and love the same thing. They're all the same thing. This is big truth. Okay, now it's also free, but it's scalable. It's going to go around the world really fast. It's unifying. It just is beautiful. Fully transparent. We all can see. There's nothing hidden in this. This is nobody's agenda. There's no conspiracy going on here. We can all know this. And what's wonderful is when people aren't walking toward love, it's really obvious. So people will just get ignored if they're whining and complaining about things and not making things better. It's going to be obvious, and we're going to just be able to say, look, just go and have a look at those diagrams, you know? This process is also almost instant. We just have to start talking about it and it will happen. It can be communicated using 12 images alone, so how easy is that? Anybody, just go and look at the images, okay? It's just going to heal everything and lift our game and make us proud. We're all going to be so proud to become our best selves and to be working on towards the best world by all of our inputs. It's going to be amazing. This has never been seen before. This is a world that's never been seen before. When we're all doing it together, there may have been pockets of bliss around the place, but when this is all happening around the whole world, everything is going to be amazing. and it's fully in accord with all human knowledge. Again, that's just because it's true. Okay, my friends, podcasters, let's get this done. Let's see what happens. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.